was your inspiration for the world of Satima?
Well, I mostly took my country of Satima from the Canadian Rockies. They're just to the west of my hometown here in Calgary. And I also took a lot of spins off of Middle-earth in the Lord of the Rings films.
So, are you a big fan of fantasy then?
Not really. It really depends on, I guess the storyline of the fantasy novels. Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and things like that are really good. I really appreciate those. Also, mostly just anime and manga with the magical girls and boys and things like that. It really interests me quite a bit.
So, did these also influence the people of Satima?
Somewhat. I took a little bit of an anime take off of the people's appearance, as well as they really look like the elves of Lorien from Lord of the Rings.
So, what period would you say your novel is set in?
It kind of takes from various eras of time. It's mostly medieval, but there is some 21st century modern technology such as medicines and electricity, and the majority of the architecture comes from 17th century Europe.
So, why did you pick certain technological elements, not others?
I thought that, you know, the medicine and things really represented the people's desire for a common good among everyone, and they're all very concerned about the well-being of one another, as well as the electricity kind of just shows their magical traits and in a way shows how brilliant the people are.
Magic? What do you mean, like spells and fairy tale witches?
No, nothing like that. It's more so psychological and meant for personal security, I guess you could say. The majority of what my people use as far as the magic. Yeah.
So, how do they use this magic in everyday life?
Well, for instance, the psychological magic that I had mentioned is for what they refer to as calling to one another. And what that is kind of our cell phones. But what they do is they envision a person's mind or they envision a person's face, excuse me, in their mind and repeat the person's name over and over again. And sometimes the other person answers, and sometimes they don't. And when they don't answer, then you just are ignored. Also, the personal security that I refer to is mostly from the nobles' magic, and that's they use to disguise themselves. They can change the color of their hair and the color of their eyes to whatever they like, depending on what circumstances they're under. Like if they're being threatened, but they need to go out and do something, then generally they will change their appearances a little bit.
So, do the royal family have more magic than the average person?
A small bit, yes. The royal family and the nobles have the capability of disguising themselves, whereas the lower and middle classes don't have the 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 ability of doing that. So, yeah.
I heard something about nobles in the weather. What's that all about?
Oh yes. The weather. The weather is non-conventional in the country of Satima. It's strictly related to the emotions of the king. And that can get pretty funky pretty fast, especially at night. It's been known for thunderstorms and things like that when the king is having nightmares, and other nights it's clear and nice. Also, depending on the amount of passion the royals are feeling at the time, depends on how hot it gets during the day and things like that.
So, how does the culture differ from the higher to the lower classes?
Well, the higher classes, obviously, as a stereotype, have a hierarchy of there's the royals and the nobles who have servants who do things for them. Whereas the lower and middle classes do various different kinds of labor around the town, classic medieval sorts of jobs like thatchers and millers and all those kinds of things, right? But they all share the common love of good grammar. So, yes, they get rather violent about that. They will threaten people who use incorrect language and contractions.
So, does this love reflect you at all?
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'm what my friends call a grammar Nazi, and when I tend to edit papers and things at school, they come back bleeding because I use a fine tip red pen, and I am not very nice about punctuation misplacements and informal language in proper writing.
So, what else is an important element of the culture?
Probably their religion. They have a deity. It's somewhat like Aslan in the Narnia series, where they look to her as a protector, kind of thing. She and the angels. Their main deity's name is Gabriella Cerebus, and most and all of the angels under her. It's kind of in Roman Catholicism where you have like God as the main deity and then the patron saints sorts of things. And depending on a person's position, they will be more connected to a certain angel. Um, for example, if I had twin princes, there are a set of angels that are twins. Their names are Celestine and Celeste, and so those would be connected.
All right. So, thank you for your time, Crystal. It's been great hearing from you.
Thank you, and I hope that this little interview has inspired a lot of people to want to read my novel, and the Council of Elders will definitely be looking forward to welcoming you to the land of Satima.